Hello grade 8 students. In this video we're going to talk about our new chapter about respiration. In this video we're going to start with part 1 for respiration. In this video we're going to identify the different organs of the respiratory system. Also, we're going to list the characteristics that favor the exchange of gases at the level of the alveoli. Next video, part 2, we're going to study the reactions between hemoglobin and respiratory gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide, and how to write the word and the chemical equations. Also, we will distinguish between the assimilation reaction and the synthesis one. To start with, let's talk about respiration. What is respiration? What are the different gases involved? What is the role of oxygen and that of carbon dioxide? To start first, let's talk about the anatomy of the respiratory system. Let's start with activity 1, the organization of the respiratory system of Here, the respiratory system of humans, we have the nasal cavity at the level of the nose, the mouth, we have the pharynx, the larynx, the trachea, the lung, which is the most important organ in the respiratory system. Also, we have the bronchus, the bronchiole, we have the alveoli or the air sacs, and we have the diaphragm, which is found here. Now let's move to the pathway of the air along the respiratory system. To start, we have the nasal cavities at the level of the nose. Then we have the pharynx, the larynx, the trachea, the bronchus, the bronchioles, and finally we have the alveoli. So we have step number 1, the nasal cavities. Then the air is going to move to the pharynx, then to the larynx, to the trachea, to the bronchus, to the bronchioles, and then to the alveoli. What's the difference between breathing and respiration? Let's start with breathing. Breathing is the actual mechanical intake of air. Usually breathing consists of 2 main phases, inhalation and exhalation. These are called the respiratory movement. What is inhalation and what is exhalation? Inhalation, inspiration, also is called inspiration, is the process of taking air in. So inhalation, taking in air. So this air is going to be rich in oxygen, in O2, and it's poor in CO2. Moving to the exhalation, which is called expiration, is the process of releasing air outside the body. Exhalation, exit. Okay, so you have to study it like this. Inhalation, we inhale air, so we get air inside our body. Whenever exhalation is the process of releasing air outside the body. The inhalation process, the air is going to be rich in O2 and poor in CO2, while in the exhalation is going to be poor in O2 since we consume the oxygen and rich in CO2. Let's move now to an important term in this chapter, diffusion. What is diffusion? Diffusion is the movement of particles of a substance from a medium of high concentration or high pressure or high volume or high amount to a medium of low concentration, low pressure, low volume, and this substance. So the movement of a substance from a medium of high concentration to a medium of low concentration is defined as diffusion. So diffusion is the movement of a substance from a medium containing high amount or high concentration or high volume of this substance to a medium containing low amount or no volume or low concentration of this substance. So pay attention to the term diffusion. What is the role of the respiratory system? Respiratory system is responsible for the gaseous exchange, or it's responsible for the gaseous exchange of the gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide. You have to know that these gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide, they are called the respiratory gases. So the respiratory system is responsible for the gaseous exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide with the environment. The pathway of air inside the respiratory system starts, as I said before, at the level of the nose and nasal cavities, then to the pharynx, to the larynx, to the trachea, to the bronchus, the plural is bronchi, the branch of the bronchus, bronchial, alveolus, the plural is alveoli, which is the air sacs. The lungs, they are spongy. They are light and elastic. Why they are spongy? Due to the presence of many pores for the air sacs. As you know, we have two lungs, the right lung and the left lung. The right lung is made up of 3 lobes, whereas the left one is made up of 2 lobes. So the right lung is made up of 3 lobes, whereas the left is made up of only 2 lobes. Also the lungs, they are spongy, they are light, and they are elastic. Gaseous exchange between the air and the blood occurs at the level of the alveoli in the lungs. What facilitates the exchange of gases at the level of the alveoli? We have 3 main characteristics that made an alveoli a good site or a favorable site for the exchange of gases. First, the large surface area of exchange of the alveoli. Thin wall of the alveoli, highly vascularized, meaning that it's rich in blood vessels. So the 3 characteristics, they are large surface area of exchange, thin wall of the alveoli, and highly vascularized, rich in blood vessels. Okay, so I repeat, the lungs, they are spongy, they are light and elastic. We have 2 lungs. Right lung is made up of 3 lobes, while the left is made up of only 2 lobes. Gas exchange between the air and the blood occurs at the level of the alveoli inside the lungs. Characteristics that favor the gas exchange, they are large surface of exchange of the alveoli, thin wall, highly vascularized, meaning that rich in blood vessels. Respiratory gas exchange. Which gases are the respiratory gases? Already we answered this question. So what happens to the blood when it enters the lungs? This is the question. Let's start with question number 1. In this question we have this table. This table is showing the variation of the quantity of oxygen and carbon dioxide gases in milliliter for each 100 milliliter of blood, the blood entering and blood leaving the lungs. So compare the results of the table showing the composition of the blood entering and that leaving the lungs, and we have to interpret the results showing the composition of the blood entering and that leaving. Comparison, you have to say greater than or less than. Oxygen with the entering with the oxygen leaving, and carbon dioxide in the blood entering and carbon dioxide in the blood leaving. We can't compare oxygen with carbon dioxide. So the blood entering the lungs, the quantity of oxygen was 15 milliliter in every 100 milliliter of blood, which is less than that, and the blood leaving the lungs, which is 20 milliliter in 100 milliliter of blood. While the quantity of carbon dioxide in the blood entering the lungs was 53 milliliter for each 100 milliliter of blood, which is less than that in the blood leaving the lungs, which is 49 milliliter. This is the comparison. The blood entering the lungs contain less oxygen. You can solve it like this, or you can say that the blood entering the lungs, the amount of oxygen was 15 milliliter, which is less than that in the blood leaving the lungs, which is 20. And the blood entering the lungs, the concentration of or the amount of carbon dioxide was 53 milliliter, which is greater than that in the blood leaving the lungs, which is 49 milliliter. Let's move now to the interpret. Interpret, as we know, it's analysis plus indication. So the quantity of oxygen in blood entering the lungs is 15 milliliter and increases. This is the key word here. Increases. This is analysis. So increases, instead of saying it's greater than or less than. So in analysis, you have to say increases or decreases. It increases to 20 milliliter in the blood leaving the lungs. What does this indicate? This indicates that the oxygen diffuses from the lungs to the blood. Oxygen diffuses from the lungs that's rich in oxygen to the blood that's poor in oxygen. This is the term diffusion. The quantity of carbon dioxide in the blood entering the lungs is 53 milliliter, and it decreases to 49 milliliter in blood leaving the lungs. So here the key word is decreases. Indication, this indicates that carbon dioxide diffuses from the blood, medium rich in oxygen and carbon dioxide, to the lungs, medium poor in carbon dioxide. So gas exchange, this one you have to study it. Oxygen gas diffuses from lungs rich in oxygen to the blood that's poor in oxygen, while carbon dioxide diffuses from the blood that's rich in carbon dioxide to the lungs that's poor in carbon dioxide. Question number 3, describe the respiratory gaseous exchange with blood at the level of the tissues. Oxygen gas diffuses from the blood rich in O2 to the cells, organs, or tissues that are poor in O2, while CO2 gas diffuses from the cells that are rich in CO2 to the blood that's poor in CO2. So I repeat, the respiratory gas exchange at the level of the tissues is a little bit different. So oxygen gas diffuses from the blood that's rich in O2 to the cells or tissues or the organs that are poor in O2, while the CO2 gas diffuses from cells rich in CO2 to the blood that's poor in CO2. Question number 4, talking about what favors the respiratory gas exchange at the level of the capillaries. We have 3 characteristics that favor the gas exchange at the level of the capillaries. Number 1, large surface area of the capillaries. Number 2, thin wall of the blood capillaries. Number 3, slow circulation of blood in the blood capillaries. So these are the 3 main types of the 3 characteristics that favor the gas exchange at the level of the capillaries. I repeat, large surface area of the capillaries, thin wall of the blood capillaries, and also the slow circulation of blood in the blood capillaries. And this is the most important one, the slow circulation at the level of the capillaries.